Hey, this is Ralph for the Prineville Chess Club. In this game, I'm going to play another bot, and I think I'm pretty satisfied and have felt like I've gone through several of the beginner bots. So I'm moving into the intermediate category, and we're going to play Maria, who's 1,000. And I also, you can't see the setting, but I'm also going to have it randomly select sides. So I don't know if I'm going to be white or black in this game. I'll go ahead and choose play, and it looks like I'm white. All right, so piece movement is always on our mind. We're starting to get really familiar with how the pieces move. Central control, definitely important. I always want to develop and take as much center control as early as possible in the game. But I'm also going to be more aware of checks, captures, and threats, especially once we get past the first few moves of the opening. So I'm going to start with e4. That's my standard opening as white. Maria says e4 is the only way to start the game. Okay, Maria, I agree. Now they're going with what's called Alekhine's defense, which I don't think is terribly common, but it is definitely a defense. And right away, black is saying, you know what, I can go ahead and target this pawn that I just pushed out. Now, it wasn't at this game, but I know I've had a live tournament game. Maybe it was some months ago, or not the most recent tournament that was in a couple months ago, but maybe many months before that, where someone played this against me. And I studied the game afterwards, and I know there's just lots of opportunities to push that knight and see if it regrets even coming out. Okay, and the knight continues. Now, we could keep threatening this knight even more. I don't know if that's practical, but I'm going to try it. Now, normally I'd prefer to develop my central pieces, but I think I'm going to develop this c-pawn because there's no danger of black targeting my queen along this diagonal or anything like that. So everything is still pretty good there. The knight has been forced to move. Now my opponent Maria is demonstrating a common mistake, and that is making the same piece move, or moving the same piece multiple times. Now in this example, she's actually forced to make that piece move multiple times, but ideally you don't want to move the same piece multiple times in the opening. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and continue developing. This pawn here is protected by my bishop, so I'm not concerned. Okay, this is definitely a dubious move or bad move. So basically, yeah, Maria has moved this rook, taking away her ability to castle kingside. So, which is unfortunate. So I'm going to go ahead and start developing my pieces, maintaining good central control. And I don't have any checks, captures, and threats. So I'm still, that's going to be a theme for this practice, for this demonstration. But I don't have any checks. Definitely don't have any checks, but I am starting to be able to get a capture here. I can capture this way and see what my opponent does. But I still feel like I would prefer to develop. So I'm going to do so. And if they take, I will take back with my knight. And this little bit of exposure over here, I'm wondering, so checks, captures, and threats. So my only check is queen to h5, checking the king. Black's only response to that, I'll do this in a different color, would be pushing this pawn. I can take with my knight, and then they would have the option of taking with the pawn or taking with a rook. Now this is where that rook move actually seems kind of good, because there's going to be two protectors of that g6 square by black, and my queen is going to be the only attacker at that time. if I choose to sacrifice my knight. So I'm not really digging that so much. If the rook was still over in the original square, h8, I would give that some serious consideration. So although I do have a check, I don't think that check holds merit. I don't think I'll have a really good follow-up. Now, so checks, captures, and threats. I don't like my checking opportunity there. Captures. Well, I can definitely capture here. And that seems pretty good. Trading down pieces, kind of boring. Now, I do have the option of bringing a queen out to f3 and targeting this square, f7, which would be a checkmate, by the way. The only problem with this is as soon as I bring my queen out to f3, my opponent can take this knight, which is a critical piece in my checkmate. Queens can't checkmate on their own. They do need some kind of support, and I'm relying on this e5 knight to be that support. Now, if they take, I can take back with a pawn, and I'm not bad. It's not kind of what I was hoping for. I think I'm going to make that move though. I want to get some more development. My bishop does need to get developed, but I don't want to develop it here because that's going to unprotect my d4 pawn. I want it to stay on this diagonal. Could develop this. Yeah, I'm going to develop this queen. I'm expecting them to take, and I will take back. Now, I think, again, I don't have any really decent checks. I know I can check here, but that can be easily thwarted, blocked by that pawn push. However, I'm starting to wonder if this black knight is going to be trapped. I'm looking at where the black knight can move. So let me take away these arrows. If I push this pawn forward, the black knight's going to want to move, right? It can't move here because that square is protected by my knight and my queen. It can't move here because that square is protected by my bishop. It can't move here because that square is protected by my knight. It can't move back. I think that's going to be good. So this is not a check. It's not a capture, but it is a threat to capture. I'm going to push this pawn forward. Okay, they choose not to even move the knight. Now, we might have a little bit of an in-between move. Yeah. So yeah, I can take this knight, but I'm not so worried about doing that. Again, this knight can't move here, here, or here, because all of these squares are protected by my knight or my bishop. So I'm in no rush to take this b6 knight. So instead, I'm going to take this pawn with check. Now again, this is easily blocked, but I'm winning a pawn out of this, and I can move my queen out of the way. Yeah, I'll move back over here. So just a free pawn, get out of the way. Do I need to move this horse, or do I need to move, go ahead and take this knight, this horse? I think so now, because by moving this rook, they've given their knight an escape square. Boy, that would be a tough spot for a knight to live for very long, but might as well grab it. If you can grab a 3-point knight with a 1-point pawn, go for it. They take back, so I'm up 2 points of material with that. And of course, I grabbed a pawn just a minute ago, so I'm up 3 points of material at the moment. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and develop this bishop. It's actually nice. This white bishop doesn't have anything to protect. Now, normally I would say, hey, bring the light squared bishop out first. Actually, that's actually a good move, because that would be development for free. So if I bring this bishop out, I am developing it, but I'm also targeting this rook, which means they have to respond to that. That's always good. If you can develop with tempo, develop for free, develop when you force your opponent to respond to that developing move so that they can't develop themselves, that's actually pretty cool. All right. I really am thinking about castling long in this game. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. I don't know why I'm delaying that. This is not a live game. This is I'm playing a bot. I got all the time in the world. Well, I'm thinking if I castle long, that means, my king would be here on c1 and my rook would go to the opposite side. For one, I haven't castled long in a game in one of these videos yet, so that would be a new experience, and that's kind of cool. But this would be one move where I could put this rook and line it right up against the enemy queen. And then I have thoughts. If that rook is lined up here, then that means this pawn is pinned. This d7 pawn would be pinned, which means this bishop would be able to take the e6 pawn without threat of it being taken. Because if they took back, then I would win the queen. So that would be a gain in material for me. And then it would be easier to consider moves into here and other things. So I kind of like that. Now, something I need to keep in mind, in order to castle long, castle queenside, I need to move this bishop out of the way. So that would take a move. And then castling takes a move. However, if I castle short, that takes one move. I'm already ready to castle short. And then moving the rook over here is two moves. So that's two moves either way. Two moves either way. All right, I'm going to develop this bishop. And I'm going to go here. Okay, I'm going to castle long. That lines my rook up over here. Okay, so they move out of the way. That was pretty smart. So my plan has been stymied. Let's see, what else can we do? All right, I'm going to try this. I'm going to move my queen to g4, which threatens a check and taking a pawn. I don't necessarily care about that. I don't know why they did that. That was well defended. So I'll take that rook. Now, this wasn't a good move. So what I was planning, while the queen was here, I was going to move my bishop to this square, threatening the queen. But now I should be able to move my bishop here, right? Targeting their queen. This would be a skewer. Not a super high value one because the queen can move out of the way and I can grab a bishop and they can take a bishop. So that would be that would be an even trade. Now I think a problem with my idea is if I move my bishop here, what happens if their queen just moves over? That means that queen could potentially be looking at this rook, which is undefended. I don't know if I'm too worried about that because I can double up. And the rooks that are doubled up on an open file are tremendously powerful. I think I'm going to try that. Okay, they've taken and they've renewed their threat. Okay. So I'm looking at my own checks, captures, and threats, but I'm not looking at my opponent's checks, captures, and threats. That's definitely a flaw. I think I'm all right, though. I just played a real game, and I recorded a recap of that. And something I learned in that game was counterattacking. So this queen is for sure attacking my rook. And obviously I can protect that rook. I can just get it out of danger. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to do. But instead of running from the danger, I can counterattack my opponent. And I can counterattack in a couple ways. I can push this pawn, so attacking the queen with my pawn. But I can also counterattack with a bishop. And, oh, well, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the queen to move away, and then my bishop was going to be looking right over here at this pawn, so I could win a pawn back and then threaten their rook, and their rook would have to move and stuff like that. Well, they've taken my bishop, but they have taken it with check, so I do need to respond. My queen is undefended, so really the best logical move is for me to take their queen with my queen. And now I'm up a queen. Okay, this is a good move. This is a skewer. They're going against my queen, taking on my rook back here. And really, I can't block this in any good way. I'm going to lose a rook. However, oh, you know what? I could block. Oh, this is good. Okay. This is a good opportunity. So, checks, captures, and threats. Because if I can check the king, the black king, that will minimize, or at the very least delay, this attack that black has on me. Checks, captures, and threats. My queen cannot effectively check the king. Not in any way where it couldn't just be taken. However, my rook, my h-rook, can slide all the way back here, checking the black king. The black king only had one move right here. And now I've got checkmate. So my rook is guarding all of these back squares. My queen is guarding all of these F squares. So the black king is blocked in by its own bishop. I just need to check the king in a way that it can't take my checking piece, because the king can't move away from check, and the king can't block the check, and so I need to check so it can't take me, and there's a great place for that. If I just move my queen right there, checkmating the king, it can't escape, it can't take my queen because it's protected by the rook, and it can't move out of the way, it can't block it because there's nothing in between. So, all right, so that turned out to be pretty good. Now this miss up here, I wonder if that's me. Did I miss something better that I could have done earlier? Very likely. Let's go ahead and click the game review. All right, it's a pretty good chart. Yeah, definitely had a little dipperoo right in here. Gave away some of my advantage and regained it. Now it's not showing a miss in this area, 82% accuracy. So a handful of best moves and a great move in there. Cool. I'm going to jump over. This one may not need a huge analysis when you're still playing these bots. Yeah, you may not be the best games to learn from, but always look for at least one decent takeaway. And I think you can always get one, at least one takeaway from any game you play. Even a game that you feel like you've won quite easily. Let's see, did I do this opening okay? That's a book move, scare the knight away. That's a book move, pressure the knight. And that's a book move, develop into the center. That's a bad move. That looked like a bad move. Develop the knight. That's good. Another dubious move by Maria. Okay, that's decent. Bring the knight out. Ah, taking with my knight was not the better way to go. Well, certainly they would want me to take, right? Is taking with the pawn the better way to go? Yeah, probably so. What do they have up here? C5, ignoring it completely. Ah, interesting. So it looks like that opportunity to challenge the knight existed a couple moves before I made it. So yeah, they're suggesting I push, and then where's that knight going to go? Yeah, so I didn't observe that this knight was trapped as soon as I could have. Okay, bring the queen out was an inaccuracy. Yeah, that didn't seem right, especially since I still had pieces to develop. And again, it looks like I do have some opportunities to challenge this knight. So I bet c5 is still good. Yep, c5 is the top engine move here. So yeah, there was a good move that I was certainly overlooking. Okay, finally I do that great move. I don't know if I can call it great since I missed my opportunity to make it 2 moves earlier. All right, pretty decent. Pretty decent. Thumbs up, check marks, stars, those are all good. Okay, that's okay. Okay response. Checks, captures, and threats. Of course, I could have gone right in for a check right there. Queen takes g6. So looking for your own checks, captures, and threats is good. Looking for your opponent's checks, captures, and threats are good. Clearly, there are moves in the game where I fail to do that. That happens in real games against real people with me as well. And I imagine most mistakes and blunders, not just by me, but by anybody, can be found to be the start of not checking for checks, captures, and threats. Because if we had the ability to do that, and we do, if we did check for checks, captures, and threats, we would start to see these opportunities. And in an untimed game against a bot or a long time control game against a human opponent, there's really no excuse for not looking for checks, captures, and threats. Yeah, so queen takes g6 seems like a good move, and that is the top engine move. Not only is it the top engine move, I see that it has a little plus m9. That means it is the start of a mating sequence, mate in 9. Now, I am not so good that I could necessarily spot mates in 9. However, had I done this, what could the king have done? Not very much. It would have to go to one of these dark squares, d8 or e7. They're suggesting king d8 is the better of the 2 bad options. But they go from mate in, mate in 9 or mate in 8, I can't remember now, to mate in 6 or mate in 5. So if the king goes here, one of its only options, what would I do next? Well, I would check it here. I would probably do bishop g5. Bishop g5 check is the best move. And they can't do much here. They would have to block. They could take my bishop with their queen. Yeah, they could block. Nah, they wouldn't do that, right? They would probably block with their bishop, right? Bishop to e7. No, that's not even their best move. Their bishop e7 leads to a quick checkmate for me. Yeah, so if they did a block with the bishop, I would be able to go here and checkmate. The bishop is pinned, so it can't block. Yeah, that would be a checkmate. So yeah, their best move is queen takes g5. Okay, and from here I can take and then start to whittle this down for sure. Oh, this pawn is pinned over here. King e8 would have to be played. Rook h8. Okay, bring the rook all the way up here, pinning their bishop. Okay, so checkmate is not far around the corner. Checks, captures, and threats. Yes, so I know that's a good thing to do, but I frequently fail to do that. So I'm going to get better at looking for checks, captures, and threats. I did see this one at the end, though. So yes, check, and then there was the checkmate opportunity. Okay, yeah, so pretty good game here against a 1000 ELO bot, and focus on checks, captures, and threats. That's something we can all do more often in all of our future games. Take care.